the first thing that we're going to be talking about is, if you remember from Chapter 4, we had the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight response that prepares the body for brief emergency responses. And we're going to be going through all of those things I think it's the next slide. What the sympathetic nervous system does to the heart, to the lungs, to the stomach, so on and so forth. But we want to talk about this Hpa axis, the hypothalamus, pituitary gland, and adrenal cortex. Basically, the be-all and end-all that decides whether or not something is stressful is your brain. And once your brain has decided that something is stressful, then what happens is the hypothalamus sends releasing factors to the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland releases adrenocorticotropin hormone, which is ACTH. The adrenocorticotropin hormone goes down to the adrenal glands that are located on the top of your kidney, and that causes them to release adrenaline. Adrenaline is what maintains your body at this high functioning rate. So remember from the general adaptation syndrome, first you had the alarm reaction. So your brain has said, oh no, I have to adapt. There's lots more things that are placed on me. And then you have this Hpa axis. The hypothalamus sends the message to the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland sends the messages down to the adrenal glands. That raises your adrenaline, makes your body work at a higher rate. And then you go into the resistance stage. But then when another stressor is put on top of you after you're already making your body work at a much higher rate, you go into exhaustion. So let's see what we have next. Okay, well, here's a picture showing you. Okay, so basically what we're going to find out is whether or not something's stressful or not kind of depends on you. Now, there's some environmental stressors that just really, like lots of noise, lots of interruptions, so on and so forth. But a lot of our stressors, we're the ones that make them stressful. That is how your brain perceives it. And then if your brain does say, you know what, this is stressful, I say that this is something bad, then your hypothalamus sends the messages to the anterior pituitary. The anterior pituitary sends message ACTH, adrenocorticotropin hormone, through the blood. It circulates down here to the adrenal cortex. This releases the cortisol, and this raises all your body processes.
Pituitary adrenal, or Hpa axis, is best known for its role in our body's natural reaction to stress. The Hpa axis includes a group of hormone-secreting glands from the nervous and endocrine systems. The hypothalamus is a small neuroendocrine structure situated just above the brainstem that controls the release of hormones from the pituitary gland, a hormone-secreting gland that sits just below the hypothalamus. The pituitary gland can release hormones into the bloodstream that travel down to the kidneys and influence the secretion of hormones from endocrine glands called the adrenal glands, which sit on top of the kidneys. The primary function of the Hpa axis is to regulate the stress response. When we experience something stressful, the hypothalamus releases a hormone called corticotropin-releasing hormone, or CRH. CRH signals the pituitary gland to secrete a hormone called adrenocorticotropic hormone, or ACTH, into the bloodstream. ACTH travels down to the adrenal glands where it prompts the release of different hormones from different parts of the adrenal glands. It causes the secretion of a class of steroid hormones called glucocorticoids from the cortex or outer layer of the adrenal glands. One of these glucocorticoids is cortisol, which plays an important role in the stress response. ACTH also triggers the secretion of epinephrine and norepinephrine from the adrenal medulla, which is the center of the adrenal glands. Epinephrine and norepinephrine are substances that act as hormones and neurotransmitters. When released from the adrenal glands, they act as hormones. The release of cortisol causes a number of changes that help the body to deal with stress. For example, it helps to mobilize energy like glucose so the body has enough energy to cope with a prolonged stressor. Norepinephrine and epinephrine act to keep the body vigilant and able to deal with the stressor by promoting alertness and by increasing blood flow to skeletal muscles to ensure they are ready to act. When cortisol levels in the blood get high, this is sensed by receptors in areas of the brain like the hypothalamus, which leads to the shutting off of the stress response through what is known as a negative feedback